Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast. My name is Metal Mike, and I'm joined here with the Candyman, the Pickmaster, Mr. Johnny H. John, how are you doing on this wonderful Football Tuesday?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Even though we got a thunderstorm roll through, it rained. I love thunderstorms, so it was kind of a plus for me. But I'm doing pretty good. Got a couple things taken care of over my 3 days off that I needed to, and now we're here on another College Football Tuesday, ready to preview two conferences today, Conference USA and the American Conference. So before we get into that, make sure you head over to the Huddle Hub Podcast over on social media, over on TikTok, Instagram, XN, on Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. Hit that follow button. Over on the YouTube, you're going to hit that subscribe button. That's how you follow on YouTube. And, of course, over on Twitch at the Huddle Hub Podcast. All of our social media links are in the Twitch bio. Just click on the one you desire to go to, because I know not everybody uses every social media outlet, and help us build the Huddle Hub Podcast for the rest of the 2026 college football offseason and beyond. So let's get into it, John. We got two conferences to cover tonight, and we're going to kick it off with Conference USA. Now, Conference USA in 2025, the champions of the conference was Kennesaw State, and we're going to start off by talking about Kennesaw State finishing 10-4 on the season, 7-1 overall in the conference, and they won the conference championship over Jacksonville State 19-15, and then they went on to the IS4, or no, they didn't go to the IS4S. Kennesaw State went to the Myrtle Beach Bowl to take on Western Michigan and got beat 41-6. John, your thoughts on Kennesaw State, and what do you see from them in 2026?
Well, I think Kennesaw State, they were like one of those teams that came out of nowhere last year. They were a team that was recently in FBS 1. I believe this was their second year. I think 2 years ago was their first year. So for them to go 10-4 and make that adjustment that quick, that's pretty impressive. To me, that's almost up there with the Las Vegas Knights in the NHL winning the Stanley Cup their first year. Like, to me, that's crazy turnaround that the Owls had. I have them going 9-3 with a 6-2 conference record. The only conference games I have them losing to is Western Kentucky and Liberty. And then I have them losing week 3 to Tennessee. I feel like every other game on their schedule is completely winnable. And I actually have Kennesaw State in the Conference USA Championship game losing to Western Kentucky.
So you got them losing the conference title game this year. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, Kennesaw State, they built some popularity by the fact of being added in to the college football video game. I mean, that's one team that I believe was used, I think 86% usage in the first year of being in the video game all across platforms. Yes, because people wanted to use them and rebuild them and everything like that. So there was the popularity to them. Now, with the new college game out, we got a couple new teams in. You really can't navigate what team people are going to use for a rebuild this time. I'm sure once we start getting more content, we'll start seeing which team people are using. But Kennesaw State built up that popularity, and people started following them. But you're right. In real life, in football, they had a huge turnaround, especially coming in to the FBS. Year 2, huge turnaround, winning their conference.
Yeah.
And you know what? They got some good competition in Conference USA. Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky. You might even be able to add in Louisiana Tech. As some good competition.
I would throw Liberty in there too. I mean, they had an off year last year, but historically over the last 5-6 years, Liberty's been up there.
It's all about what Liberty did in recruiting. That's going to be the key thing. And Kennesaw State, with winning their conference, obviously got more recruiting benefits than Liberty because of winning their conference, making a bowl game. They got more benefits because of that. So they're able to go out and recruit more, just like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was one of those teams that earned that as well. So Kennesaw State, it will not surprise me to see them in the conference championship game, but do they win it for a second year in a row? That's going to be the big question. Can they repeat what they did last year in 2026 and get into a bowl game? I mean, they'll get into a bowl game regardless, especially with a winning record. But it's all about, will they win their conference and repeat what they did last year? We'll have to see. I mean, looking at their record, at their schedule, Tennessee is going to be a definitely a tough game. The Western Michigan Broncos, I mean, that's going to be a tough game. Or no, they didn't play the Western Michigan. They played Western Michigan in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Sorry, I'm looking at Arkansas State, maybe a tough game. I might have to agree with the record, your record that you picked out for them as well. And as far as their conference, same thing. But again, the question is can they repeat winning their conference? Or does another team come in and take over, like a Western Kentucky, like you're picking, or Jacksonville State? Jacksonville State's next on the list. They finished 9-5 on the year, 7-1 in the conference as well. Jacksonville State was the team that played in the IS4S Salute the Veterans Bowl against Troy and defeated them 17-13. They also lost to Kennesaw State in the conference championship 19-14. John, what do you see in Jacksonville State in 2026?
I see Jacksonville State finishing third with a 9-3, 6-2 conference record. And the reason they finished third is because, where are you? October 7th, I don't think they beat Kennesaw State. So that strength of victory is what will propel Kennesaw State into the Conference USA Championship game. And as far as their schedule, I mean, I feel like they have a pretty easy schedule. I mean, you can even argue they're going to go 10-2. I have them being upset by Ohio week 3 because it's in Ohio. But that's a very winnable game for Jacksonville State. But yeah, the October 7th game, I think that's going to determine who Western Kentucky plays in the conference championship game.
Yeah, that definitely could be and if they end up having the same record at the end of the year, the deciding factor to see who plays in the conference championship game. There's one team that I think Jacksonville State may have a small issue with, and that is Delaware. Delaware is one of those teams that they're a hit or miss team. They can go out and win ball games at the same time. They go out and lose ball games just like anybody else. But they're one of those teams that are, I don't want to call them unpredictable, but I think they can give Jacksonville State a problem in the final week of the season.
They finished their regular schedule 6-6, so they were 50-50 on wins, 7-6 because of their bowl game win.
And
so,
that's
yeah, you're completely right.
That's exactly what I mean by, like, any team, win one game, lose one game, win one game. It's like you look at Delaware's record from last year and it's like, okay, even though their schedule may not have gone that way, it's almost like that because of finishing 500.
It actually did go that way. If you look at their schedule, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss, win. Delaware is just doubling up. If you win, you lose. You lose 2, you win 2. They're just doubling up.
And then Delaware went out and won the 68 Venture Bowl against Louisiana. So it's a hit or miss with Delaware with that bowl win finishing 7-6, 4-4 in the conference. So I think Delaware is one of those teams that could give Jacksonville State a slight problem towards the end of the year. And at the end of the year. So that Kennesaw State matchup, that's going to be that could be the deciding factor, might be and should be the deciding factor. But even if you look at last year's matchup between Jacksonville State and Delaware, 38-25 was the final. It's a pretty close game. That's a 2-score game. Jacksonville State won, but that was a 2-score game. This is now late in the season, and Delaware could be playing to get themselves into a bowl game at that point. They could be at that point of we need one more win just to be bowl eligible, so they could put up a fight. So, but Jacksonville State is definitely going to be at the top of the rankings in the Conference USA at the end of the season. And I agree that Kennesaw State matchup should be the deciding factor on who's in the conference championship game at the end of the year. Western Kentucky, 9-4 finish, 6-2 in the conference. They ended up playing in the New Orleans Bowl against Southern Miss, winning 27-16. John, your thoughts on Western Kentucky?
I think Western Kentucky has a very, 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 very favorable schedule. I have them going 10-2, 8-0 in conference play. I think they run the table in conference play. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I'm very high on the Hilltoppers this year. Their only 2 losses is going to be at Georgia and at Indiana. All the other smaller schools, I think they take care of business. They're going to start off 1-2 and then not look back after that. That's why I have them as my Conference USA champions.
And I see where you're going with that now because they do play Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State at the end of the year.
Yep.
So that matchup that we talked about a few moments ago, deciding factor. I agree. I see them having trouble in losing to Georgia and Indiana as well. I mean, Nevada's another team in a sense like Delaware. They might even have some trouble with Delaware. So not saying they're going to lose those games, but those games are going to be close. Those games will definitely be close. So I see your point on why you see Western Kentucky going into the conference championship game and possibly winning it on whoever they face, either Kennesaw State or Jacksonville State. So Louisiana Tech, 8-5 at the end of the year, 5-3 in conference play, and they ended up playing in the Radiance Technology Independence Bowl against Coastal Carolina, defeating them 23-14. John, your thoughts on Louisiana Tech in 2026?
Louisiana Tech, they're not in the Conference USA. You got me thinking, what? I had to think about that for a second. Did I miss a team? No, they're not in Conference USA.
I'm looking a second.
Louisiana Tech's in the Sun Belt. We covered them last week.
Yeah. I don't know why I have Louisiana Tech down. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was putting everything together here, and okay. Well, let's move on to Missouri. Let's move.
Think Louisiana Tech's going to go 5-7 with a 4-4 conference record. That hasn't changed.
I'll mark off Louisiana Tech. Sorry about that. Missouri State.
No problem.
Let's move on to Missouri State. 7-6 to finish 2025, 5-3 in the conference, and they ended up in the Xbox Bowl against Arkansas State, losing 34-28. John, your thoughts on Missouri State?
I think Missouri State is going to take a step back this year. They've had significant turnovers on both sides, offense and defense, and I feel like that's going to knock them back a peg or two. I have them at 5-7, just missing a bowl, finishing 7th in the standings with a 3-5 conference record. I think they're a bubble team for me. I think they're just gonna miss a bowl or just make a bowl, kind of like a Delaware. But at the same time, I just think they might have lost a little too much on both sides of the ball, and I think if they might end up just missing a bowl because of it.
So I'm fixing something really quick, and
okay,
I'm fixing my my Louisiana Tech mess up here.
Oh, okay.
I think why I ended up putting them down was because I still had my Sun Belt notes out when I was putting together these other conferences. Because some of these teams in in Conference USA played Sun Belt teams in the bowl games, and
yeah,
I got my stuff a little mixed up. But I think
when you said that, I was like, "Do you mean Liberty? That's the only L college in this conference."
Yeah. Yeah, so I gotta I gotta take Louisiana Tech off of my thing here really quick. Okay, now we're good. Now we're good. Missouri State. Missouri State. I mean, they're going to have a tough year. They are. I mean, they both play Kennesaw State they play both Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State. Obviously in conference Delaware. I mean, I think also playing Texas A&M and Marshall. Like I said last week, Marshall is one of those teams that if they could start off hot and possibly beat Penn State, they could go on some type of run. They could have a great season. Missouri State plays Marshall. Marshall's going to feed off of that week 1 matchup. They are. If they go in and even have a great game against Penn State, they can end up having a great season overall. Missouri State is going to run into some problems with some teams, Texas A&M, possibly Marshall, SMU, Kennesaw State, possibly Delaware, Jacksonville State. I see Missouri State being in the middle of the pack like they were last year, possibly finishing with the same record they did last year. Don't see much of improvement from them. So, yeah, that's my thought on Missouri State. So
Obviously have Missouri State going 2-1 after during non-conference. I have them beating Lindenwood and Marshall, just not Texas A&M. And then once conference play starts, that's when they kind of hit their downfall.
All right, next team, Florida International. They finished 7-6 on the year, 5-3 in the conference as well. And they ended up playing in the Serve Pro First Responders Bowl against UTSA, getting beat 57-20. John, your thoughts on Florida International in 2026?
Florida State improved a lot. Florida International, sorry. They improved a lot. They had their first bowl appearance since 2019. So they're making steps in the right direction, and I think they're going to keep going in the right direction, just baby steps. They were 7-6 last year, like you said. This year, I have them finishing 4th in Conference USA with an 8-4 record and a 4-4 conference record. And I really see them getting off to a real hot start. I have them 6-1 going into Halloween. And then that's when the trouble hits. I don't see them beating Liberty at Halloween. I don't see them beating Delaware. I don't see them beating Kennesaw State. But on the flip side, I do think they beat Missouri State and then I think they win the end of their season against Sam Houston. I think they wrap that up with a win as well. 8-4, 4th in Conference USA, and heading to a bowl game.
Yeah, Florida International got some intriguing matchups this year. Buffalo, Liberty, obviously. And I mean, they're in conference play with like a Liberty, Missouri State, Delaware, Kennesaw State. They got some interesting matchups. I think I can agree with you on thinking they could go on some type of run at the beginning, kind of having that falter in the middle and then closing things out with Sam Houston, applying for a bowl game and getting back into the bowl season like they were last year. I mean, I don't really see too much change from Florida International this year. I think we might see the same type of year that we got last year from Florida International. So they'll be back into the bowl season, possibly finishing at 500, maybe a game above. So Delaware's the next team we talk about in the Conference USA. They finished 7-6, 4-4 in the conference. They do I have them in a bowl game? Yeah, 68 Venture Bowl. They defeated Louisiana 20-13. So your thoughts on Delaware?
Delaware, like we said before, they're that team that they're kind of hard to predict. They win as much as they lose for the most part. I have them going 6-6 this year with a 4-4 conference record. And I basically have them mirroring what they did last year. I have them beating Merrimack losing to Vanderbilt, beating Coastal Carolina, then losing the next two to Virginia and Liberty, then winning the next two, Middle Tennessee and Missouri State, then losing the next two, Western Kentucky and Kennesaw State, then winning the next two, and then closing out their season against Jacksonville State with a loss. So I kind of have them continuing the same trend as last year. They're going to end up 6-6. They're going to make the bowl game. And then depending who their matchup is, I mean, it's going to be obviously it's either going to be a win or a loss, but I think they're going to return back to a bowl game.
Yeah, I see them losing to Vanderbilt. It's going to be a good matchup against Coastal Carolina. Like I said about Coastal Carolina last week, might see some improvement from them this year because I liked what I seen from Coastal Carolina from what I seen from them last year. Virginia lost, Liberty lost, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State loss. I don't see change from Delaware either. They could have another year like they did last year, switching back and forth, a win here, a loss here, win there, loss here, or 2 wins here, 2 losses here. I don't see much of a change from Delaware either. Back into a bowl game like the 68 Venture Bowl, Xbox Bowl, one of those smaller bowls that we see, on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve or anywhere in between. Maybe opening up the bowl season with one of those smaller bowls. But Delaware, definitely don't see much of a change from them this year either, and no progression whatsoever. Liberty, 4-8 to finish off the year last year, 3-5 in the conference, did not make a bowl game. I got to watch because there was a team that I took notes on that finished with a bad record and still made a bowl game. So I really got to pay attention to these bowl games here. Liberty's one of them.
Sometimes they do have those fillers if they can't get enough good teams to agree to play the bowl. They do have a couple fillers of like 5 and 7 teams who just make it. Bubble teams who just miss it.
Yeah,
in there.
And that's the one thing I got to keep an eye out because I know I took some notes. I took a note on a team that finished with a bad record, but still became a filler team. And Liberty was not one of them. So, John, your thoughts on Liberty in 2026?
Liberty historically has been a model of consistency for Conference USA. Last year was their first season in 20 years that they had a losing record. First season in 20 years with a losing record. That's wild. I think they're going to get back on the right track this year. I have Liberty 5th in Conference USA with a 7-5 conference record, back in the bowl games, and a 5-3 conference record. 7-5 overall, 5-3 conference, with wins against Gardner-Webber, Ball State in non-conference play. And then I have them beating Delaware, Kennesaw State, Florida International, New Mexico State, and Middle Tennessee is their conference wins, with non-conference losses to at James Madison. And that was a tricky one for me, but since it's at James Madison, I gave it to the home team. And then the same thing with Coastal Carolina, September 24th. They're on the road again. So I gave it to Coastal Carolina because I figure that game could go either way. And then their last 2 games, Western Kentucky and at Missouri State, I have them losing that one. Missouri State, I have pulling the upset because it's at their college. So Liberty, I think, will get back on track and make a bowl game this year and possibly start being a contender for the Conference USA starting next season.
By the way, I found the team that was the filler, and they are in the American Conference, so I don't have to.
Okay.
I don't have to be too uber focused right now on the filler team because I found them, so I know who it is. And I'll just say this right now: they got stomped in the bowl game they filled in on. Like they got torn up. So Liberty, yeah. I mean, looking at Liberty's schedule this year, playing against James Madison, who made the college football playoff last year. A lot of people thought James Madison shouldn't have even been in, but they were. Okay.
Well, they didn't prove them wrong. They really didn't.
Yeah, I mean, playing against James Madison to open up the season should be a great game for Liberty to kick the year off. And if they go in and beat James Madison, that would be a great way to kickstart their season. To beat a team that was in the college football playoff last year, that could be a great kickoff for them. Liberty is going to have, I think, a bounce-back season this year. I do. They can even possibly go in and beat and upset a team like Kennesaw State this year, maybe get that win. And if Liberty goes out and ends up having a winning record, maybe climb back up to the top of the rankings in the Conference USA, we may possibly even see Liberty in the conference championship game this year.
That's very believable.
It may not even be a Kennesaw State or a Jacksonville State. We may end up seeing Liberty and Western Kentucky. This is a huge toss-up between a couple teams in this conference this year, 5 in particular: Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Liberty, and maybe Missouri State, if Missouri State can pick things up for themselves.
Yeah, I would take Missouri State out and put Florida International there. That's just me.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I wouldn't. I would not disagree with you on that. We could probably throw in a Florida International as well. So it's a huge toss-up for this conference this year. And Liberty, I think, will have a bounce-back turnaround and possibly put themselves in a position to play for this conference championship this year. So Middle Tennessee, 3-9 to end the year, 2-6 in the conference. Obviously, no bowl games. John, your thoughts on Middle Tennessee in 2026?
This is one I want to say something good about. All right, their head coach is former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason. I was a fan of Derek Mason in the NFL, but let's be honest, he has done nothing for this school. Okay, they ended their year last year on a 2-game winning streak, upsetting Sam Houston and New Mexico State. That was great. But before that, they didn't get a win since their 3rd game of the year. This year, I think it's going to be the exact opposite. I have Middle Tennessee starting off the year 2-1. I have them beating Murray State, losing to Marshall, and beating Nevada. And then after that, that's a wrap. They finish 2-10. They lose out conference play, 0-8 in Conference USA play. I know that's crazy to think that a team won't even win one game, but I honestly don't know. I really don't think they're gonna. I know I'm predicting they're going 0-8, but I have a hard time believing they're not going to upset somebody. I just couldn't determine who. So I have them going 0-8, 2-10 overall, and last in the Conference USA.
I have to fix one more thing here because of an adjustment to the conference. I had UTEP, who I believe was in Conference USA last year, and they were on the list when I did my research, and it got adjusted not too long ago.
For some reason, in the Mountain West.
Yeah. Well, they were on the readjustment, so they were in Conference USA at one point, and they got readjusted to a new conference.
Well, now you got a head start for next week.
When I did these notes over the week, UTEP was still on the list for Conference USA. You know what I mean? So it's like the thing got updated in the past couple days to where now they're not on the list. So the beautiful thing about the internet, things get changed in the most ridiculous times, I guess. So I guess they did their adjustments to get ready for the new season, which is good. Middle Tennessee kicking off against Murray State this year. I mean, Middle Tennessee has some tough matchups this year. Possibly Marshall, Jacksonville State, Kansas, Florida International, Delaware could be one of them. Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky, Liberty. I mean, Middle Tennessee is going to have a rough year. Not too much to say about them. I see another losing record from them. I do. I don't agree. See a good record from them. Maybe one more win than last year, but I do not see a winning record from Middle Tennessee. That's just that. Looking at their schedule, just does not look good for Middle Tennessee. So, New Mexico State 4-8 to finish the year, 2-6 in the conference. John, your thoughts on New Mexico State in 2026?
All right, New Mexico State. I have them, to be honest with you. I have them in the eighth in the standings, eighth in the conference, 3-9 record, 2-6 conference play. And the only reason I have them eighth is because I have them beating Sam Houston. So I have them with the power of victory over Sam Houston. I have them beating Maryhurst, Sam Houston, and Middle Tennessee. Other than that, they're just another team. They have a tough record. The first game against the season against Florida State.
Yeah.
I am 50-50 on giving them the win. Part of me wanted to give them the win, but part of me, the way Florida State ended on the tear that they ended on last year, I don't know. I think it's a toss-up game. That's a winnable game for them. I could see them go 4-8 instead of 3-9. Because as a Florida State fan, I just don't know what that team's going to look like this year. I'll have to figure that out when we do the ACC. But I played it safe, and because it's in Tallahassee, I gave it to Florida State. But yeah, 3-9, 2-6 with a couple winnable games that I may have given them a loss to. But they're not going to make a bowl game. They're not going to have a winning record.
I mean, if New Mexico State goes into that Florida State game and beats Florida State, would you consider that, as a Florida State fan, would you consider that an upset?
No, because of how badly Florida State struggled last year,
and
because of Mike Norvell on the hot seat, and because Florida State did nothing to improve their quarterback situation. They got an unproven transfer to be their quarterback. So, no, I would not consider that an upset at all if New Mexico State won.
Okay, and I'm glad you answered that. I'm glad you answered it the way you did, because now I feel safe saying what I want to say. This is a good tone setter for Florida State because of the low expectations for the Seminoles this year. Last year, you've seen it. They go in, they win the season opener. They kind of set the tone for themselves. They got themselves into the top 25 at one point, and then things just kind of fell apart.
Embarrassed Alabama.
They did. They get themselves into the top 25 at one point, and then things just kind of fell apart. Yeah. And it's like, what happened to Florida State, right? When you go into 2026 and you look at their matchups, and we're going to talk about Florida State in a couple weeks when we get into the ACC and everything like that. But this could be a good tone setter for Florida State to kick off the season. A good tone setter. And I don't know whether that's a good thing to say or a bad thing to say, especially playing a team like New Mexico State. You know what I mean? That's just like Penn State. Penn State, what happened to them last year, going in against Marshall to open up the season, it's either going to be a tone setter or it's going to be a tone setter for one of those two teams. But for this one, I agree with you. It's a 50-50 toss-up because one of these teams, they go in and win this game, it could be a possible tone setter. But when you look at New Mexico State's schedule, Hawaii, New Mexico, Western Kentucky, Florida International, Jacksonville State, Liberty, all the interconference matchups that are not favorable to them, do they have an opportunity to improve from 2025 to 2026? No, they don't. Again, we have our top 5 teams for this conference, and New Mexico State is not one of them. So, Sam Houston finished 2-10, finished 2-10, 1-7 in the conference. Last team to talk about in Conference USA. John, what do you got on Sam Houston in 2026?
Houston, man, like 2 years ago, if I remember right, they were a team that came out of nowhere 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they just fell off the map last year with a 2-10 record. So I don't know if that year before in 2025, 2024 was a fluke. Yeah, it'd be 2024.
Yeah.
But I have them slightly doing better this year. I have them 9th in conference standing with the same record. as New Mexico State, 3-9, 2-6 conference play, but I have them losing to New Mexico State. So they got the power of victory over them. And I mean, I'm looking over their schedule. I have them beating Nichols. I never even heard of that school. I have them upsetting Liberty, and I have them beating Middle Tennessee. Other than that, like I, I don't see how they could win more than 5 games tops with the schedule they have. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about the Bearcats. Just it's going to be a long season.
Yeah, I mean, because Troy was a bowl team last year, and they're opening up against Troy. And Troy even went in and gave Jacksonville State a run for their money in the Salute the Veterans Bowl. So Troy is going to be a tough team for Sam Houston. That's a loss. Tulsa, a loss. Texas Tech, Liberty, Western Kentucky. I mean, I'm with you. I don't see Sam Houston winning no more than 2 or 3 games this year. It's like they fell off from 2024. So Sam Houston gonna have a rough go. But that's Conference USA. They were represented in 6 bowl games this past year, John. Not too bad for a conference to have 6 bowl games.
No, not too bad at all. And then just like last week, I made a list of the top 3 transfers for Conference USA. The number 1 being quarterback J.J. Cole for Florida International. He transferred from Appalachian State. Number 2 is quarterback Deshaun Purdy from Liberty, transferred from Wake Forest. And number 3 is quarterback Ricky Collins, Kennesaw State, transferring from Syracuse as well.
All right. Just get myself set up here for our next conference real quick.
Okay.
Which is going to be the American Conference.
Yep.
We can talk about the American Conference. Guys, just real quick, make sure you're heading over to the Huddle Hub Podcast over on social media, over on TikTok, Instagram, X, and on Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod, hitting that follow button. Over on the YouTube, hitting that subscribe button. Over on the Twitch channel at the Huddle Hub Podcast, hitting that follow button. All the links to our social media bios are in the Twitch bio. Click on the one you desire to go to. Help us build the Huddle Hub Podcast through the rest of the 2026 college football offseason and beyond. John, let's get into the American Conference. They were represented in 9 bowl games this year, John. 9.
Believe it. There's 14 teams in the conference. So, I mean, it's not a small conference.
No. And having 9 teams in a bowl conference. And this is the conference where one of the teams, we're going to talk about them, that had a losing record, that was a fill-in school and just got completely wrecked in their bowl game. So we are going to talk about that team in a little bit, but we're going to kick things off with North Texas. North Texas went 12-2 on the year, 7-1 in the conference. They went to the conference championship game to play Tulane, where they lost to Tulane 34-21. So John, and then they ended up playing in the, I do have the bowl game that they were in, because they were in a bowl game. They were in the Isleta, New Mexico game, bowl game against San Diego State, where they won 49-47. John, your thoughts on North Texas in 2026?
North Texas, just like Western Kentucky, I have them benefiting from a very, very favorable schedule. I have them 10-2. I have them in the American Conference Championship game with a 7-1 conference record. Only losses to Indiana, their first game September 5th, and their second last game November 21st at Tulane. I have them losing.
Ooh.
Every other game, I just have them being the darling of the American Conference and making that American championship game.
I'm in agreement with you. They have a very, very favorable schedule this year, except for those 2 games, Indiana and Tulsa. They do. I could see North Texas getting back into the conference championship game this year, possibly winning and possibly being the representative in the college football playoff. Them and Tulane may be flipping spots in 2026, because Tulane,
I hope not.
was the
because
team.
Tulane got embarrassed.
They did. They did, but North Texas, I don't know. I mean, you never know. You never know what the year's going to bring, but North Texas could end up being that team that does it. Could be, possibly. So I agree with you. They have a very, very favorable schedule, and I see them back in the American Conference Championship game in 2026 and possibly taking on the next team that we talk about, and that is Tulane, finishing 11-3, 7-1 in the conference, winning the conference championship 34-21, and then going to the college football playoff round 1 to take on Ole Miss, where they lost 41-10. John, your thoughts on Tulane in 2026?
Well, last year, Tulane and James Madison did not help the cause for small teams that should, for the argument that smaller colleges should make the college football playoffs. Who knows if it'll happen this year or not. I have Tulane finishing 5th in the American Conference with an 8-4 record, a 6-2 conference record. I have them losing their first game at Duke. I have them losing at Kansas State. And then I also have them losing to UTSA and Tulsa. Everybody else, I have them beating, including North Texas. I'll add that in there. But I don't know, man. I think the top, I'm going to say the top 5 schools, each of them have a shot. And I think those top 5 schools are North Texas, Navy, East Carolina, South Florida, and Tulane. I think they each have a shot at this conference, but I feel like Navy can do what they need to do. Actually, no, we're talking about Tulane, right?
Yes.
I went to Navy mode, and I'm talking but yeah, I feel like Tulane, they're going to go 8-4, finish 5th, make a bowl game, and since they won't be playing a power school like Ole Miss, have a better matchup that they actually have a shot of winning.
Yeah, Tulane doesn't have too much of a favorable schedule this year. They don't. I mean, I could see them losing at least 3 or 4 games this season and only getting into a bowl game. And it all depends on what the other teams do. I mean, it's obviously is real life. It's not a video game, so we're not going to see like 5, 8-4 or 8-5 teams in a conference, and one of them making the conference title game against the team that's the most dominant team. No, we're going to see at least 2 teams finish with a 10-win record at least and being in that conference title game. And Tulane does not have a very favorable schedule this year that's going to put them in the position that they were in last year. You're very excited to talk about Navy. Let's get into them. 11-2, 7-1 in the conference last year. Navy did make it to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl against Cincinnati, where they defeated them 35-13. John, your thoughts on Navy?
I think Navy is going to have a very good year this year. I have them 2nd in the conference at 9-3, 7-1. Their only conference loss coming from North Texas, October 24th. Their other losses at Air Force and Notre Dame. That's it. I see them beating everybody else they're playing, including Army in the Army-Navy game on December 12th. And I have my American Conference Championship, North Texas versus Navy, with Navy avenging their October 24th loss to North Texas and winning the American Conference. I am full-on midshipman 2026 in the American Conference.
That'd be a great matchup in the conference title game. Definitely would be a great matchup in the conference title game. I mean, Navy has a great schedule. I don't know if I want to really call it a favorable schedule, but they do have a great schedule. They have some tough matchups like Notre Dame. And I do have a sleeper team in this conference that I feel is going to disrupt a little bit this year. And I will mention them when we get to them because I did my research on them. On them a little bit, and it looks like they might have a little bit of a turnaround this year. Not saying they're going to make the conference championship, but I think they will have a little bit of a better year than they had in 2025. So I will mention them when we get to them. South Florida, 9-4, 6-2 in the conference last year. They ended up, they made a bowl game last year. Yes, Staff DNA Cure Bowl against Old Dominion, losing 24-10. John, your thoughts on South Florida?
Florida, I think they're basically going to do what they did last year. I have them finishing 4th in the conference, a 9-3 record, a 7-1 conference record. Their only conference loss coming to East Carolina. And yeah, I mean, this is another team that I think has a record that, I mean, a schedule that's pretty favorable for them. And I think they're going to take full advantage of it. Basically do what they did last year, make the bowl, and depending the matchup, maybe avenge that loss last year.
I mean, I think they might have a tough season opener against Florida International. I do. I think that's going to be
a good losing that one.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game to keep an eye on for the smaller conferences, and a good game to watch if it's on television somewhere. If not, listen to it on the radio, which I'll probably end up doing because of working on Saturdays. I listen to college football games on Saturday when I'm at work. Might be a game that I listen to on September 5th because it looks like it's going to be a good matchup to pay attention to. The Army game might be a tough one for them as well. That's a bit of a toss-up for me. My sleeper team, tough matchup, I think. UTSA might be a tough matchup as well. I mean, I think they have a 50-50 schedule this year. I think they do. They're going to be in the top 6 in this conference, but they do have a tough matchup to where they may finish. They're going to finish above 500, but they might have one more loss than they did last year. And that's because of the sleeper team that I picked for this year. That's a 50-50 matchup for me, and I think there's a possibility that I'm losing to this team. So East Carolina, 9-4, 6-2 in the conference as well. They ended up making the Go Bowling Military Bowl against Pittsburgh, winning 23-17. John, your thoughts on East Carolina?
I had 3 teams in this conference finish 9-3 with a 7-1 conference record. And I had to figure out just how I was going to separate them. East Carolina came in 3rd because I have them beating South Florida November 6th. So they got the power of victory over South Florida. 9-3, 7-1 record. Their only losses at Alabama, at Old Dominion, and at Memphis. I have them beating everybody else. I think they're basically going to do what they did last year, make a bowl game, and shine. I don't see anything that Pirate fans have to worry about. I think it's going to be another good year for East Carolina.
I completely agree with you. I think it's going to definitely be a good year for East Carolina. I agree with everything you just said about East Carolina. You couldn't have said it any better for the both of us about East Carolina. So we're going to move on to Memphis, who finished 8-5, 4-4 in the conference. They went to the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl against North Carolina State, losing 31-7. John, your thoughts on Memphis?
Memphis, I have in the middle of the pack in the conference. I have them ending the year 6th in the conference with a 7-5 record, a 5-3 conference record. And this is going to be one of those teams at the first half of their schedule. I have them 4-2. Wins against Arkansas State, Tennessee Martin, Charlotte, at Charlotte. And what is that one? UAB, sorry, I looked at it wrong. UAB, with losses to UNLV and Boise State. And then the second half, I have them 3-3, kind of falling off the track, starting with that loss at Tulane, losing to East Carolina, losing to Army. I'm sorry, beating East Carolina, beating Army because they're home games, getting back on track a little bit, but then losing to South Florida, losing to Navy, and wrapping up the year with a win against Temple. The problem with their schedule is I feel all their tough games are on the road. And I think that's what's going to be the biggest thing that hurts Memphis. I mean, they're at UNLV, at Boise State, at Tulane, at South Florida, at Navy. I basically have them losing all their away games and winning, with the exception of at Charlotte, and winning, taking care of business at home, going 7-5.
I have them around a 6-6, 5-7 record. Middle of the pack, 6-6, 5-7. I mean, they have some tough matchups on their schedule. Boise State, Tulane, maybe Army, maybe East Carolina could consider them tough matchups. South Florida. I mean, I see them at least 500 or a game under 500 this year, and let's say sneaking into a bowl game. They'll get the nod for a bowl game. So that's where I have Memphis this year. Army 7-6, 4-4 in the conference last year. They ended up making the Wasabi Fenway Bowl against Connecticut.
Assuming that was at Fenway Park?
That was at Fenway Park. Yes, they had a couple. They had two matchups. They had the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium, and then they had the Wasabi Fenway game at Fenway Park. Yeah, two baseball stadium represented bowl games this past year, and Army played in the Fenway Bowl against UConn, winning 41-16. John, your thoughts on Army?
I have a special place in my heart for Army. My Nana and Pop-Pop were big Army fans. They used to go to West Point all the time and watch the games. With that said, I see Army basically doing what they did last year. Last year, 7-6. This year, I have them in the 8th place of the American at 7-5 with a 4-4 conference record split. I have them losing to South Florida. I have them losing to Tulane. Have them losing to Memphis, and I have them losing to East Carolina. The stronger teams in the conference, I see them beating. The weaker teams in the conference, I'm sorry, the stronger teams I see them losing to. The weaker teams I see them beating. On top of beating Bryant. Never even heard of that school, but I think it'll just be, like I said, a year like last year for them. Make a bowl game and hope they get a better matchup than UConn.
I agree with you, because when you look at Army's schedule, I mean, their schedule starts off hot, and it starts off inside of the American Conference. They start off conference play hard against South Florida, against Temple. I mean, even against Tulane right after the Louisiana Tech game. So they got their matchups for they got their conference matchups legitimately in the first half of the season, which can be a good thing for some teams and a bad thing for some teams. And that's where Army is going to be contested on whether they're going to finish strong or finish on the back end of a bad season. So our Army's going to have a handful in the first month and a half, 2 months of this season. So
I completely agree.
UTSA 7-6, 4-4 in the conference. They played in the Serve Pro First Responders Bowl against Florida International, winning 57-20. John, your thoughts on UTSA?
UTSA, I see 7-5, middle of the pack, 5-3 conference record. And what hurts them is I feel like they have a brutal start of the season.
Yeah.
Their first 7 games, I have them going 3-4. They play Texas State, Texas, South Florida, Navy. I have them all losses. And then their first game, I'm not even sure what college that is, who they play week 1. But that is some school I've never heard of before. But
it is UT. It is UT Rio Grande Valley Vaqueros. That's who it is.
I never even heard of that college. So they're going to win that one. I have them beating Colorado State and at Rice. But the end of the season is when they're really going to gain traction. From October 24th to their last game, I have them 4-1 with wins at Tulane, at Florida Atlantic, at UAB, at Tulsa, a loss to North Texas. And I think they're going to carry that momentum into the bowl game and probably win it because they're going to be on a 2-game winning streak going into the game and also winning 4 of their last 5 going into their bowl game as well.
I have UTSA starting 3-3 on the year, and their real test, like every other team in college football, is when they get into their conference play. They're not going to be a team we see in the college football playoffs, but they're going to be trying to play in one of those bigger bowl games, and that's where things are going to be contested and really going to set the tone for them is when they get into conference play. And if they can have a good conference record, a good finish to the season, then we could see them in one of those bigger bowl games and be represented in one of those bigger bowl games. UTSA, could we see improvement from them this year? Yes, but again, it's going to be all about when they get into conference play, and that's really when they're going to be contested. That is 3-3 to start the year. They're going to beat the Rio Grande team. Texas State, I have them losing to Texas State, losing to Texas 1-3, losing to Colorado State, that's 1-4. Beating Rice, that's 2-0, that's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-2. Beating Rice, that's 3-2, and then losing to South Florida, that's 3-3. That's how I see UTSA starting this season. Once they get into conference play is when they're really going to prove whether they deserve to be in one of those bigger bowl games or not. So, the Temple Owls, they went 5-7 last year, 3-5 in the conference. John, this is my sleeper team in the American Conference. I've done some studying on Temple this year, and it looked like they've had a pretty decent offseason. They look like they have a little bit of a better team than they did last year, and this is a team where I think they are going to surprise some teams this year, and we might even possibly see Temple in a bowl game in 2026. So I think Temple's going to be a disruptor this year in this conference. I'm not saying they're going to make the conference championship by all means, but I think they are going to be a disruptor this year. John, what are your thoughts on Temple in 2026?
Well, every time, and this even counts when we do our NFL predictions, like if I say this team beats that team, I give both their win and their losses. And every time I do this, there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 teams that I look at their record after it's all done, and it's like, how? But I'm going to go with it. I am just going to go with it. I think my prediction for Temple is way off and completely wrong. Personally, if you asked me off the top of my head, not doing how I did it, how do you think Temple's going to be? I would probably say a 5-6 win team, maybe 7-win team. They have a good year. That's not how it came out. I have the Temple Owls 2 wins and 10 losses.
Wow.
With a 2-6 conference record.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I was like, well, I have them beating Charlotte. And I have them beating Rice. After that, oh, wait a minute. I probably should. I didn't see Rhode Island. I should have them beating Rhode Island. So let's make that 3-9 because I didn't take into account Rhode Island.
Okay.
So I'm going to change that to a 3-9 record and move them up from. No, I'm going to keep them at the 12. No, I'm going to move them up from 12th in the standings to 11th in the standings because I overlook their game against Rhode Island. So 3-9, 2-6 conference play. And I personally don't think this is how it's going to go. That's just how it came out with how I distributed wins and losses to everybody.
It's understandable.
And yeah. I feel like they're going to be at least a 5-win team.
Hey, I mean, when I did my post NFL draft, predictions,
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the schedule, thought about teams, favorable, all that stuff, and they were just post. I mean, I do 3 predictions a year. I do post draft, I do before the preseason kicks off, and then when we do our beginning of the season predictions together, that's my final one. My post draft, the team that I had finishing the best was the Texans at 15-2. That's unrealistic. Yeah, exactly. But when you look at the scheduling, it's like, oh, is it favorable? Is it not? You know, so it's all about how you feel about the team at that time and moment, and it's understandable. So
I feel like they could beat that at Toledo game too.
Okay.
Probably have a shot against UConn. Like I could easily see them being a 5-6 win team, sneaking into a bowl game.
And that's why I said when I did my research on them, I was like, I feel like they might be a disruptor this year in some of these games. And again, not saying they're going to compete for the American Conference Championship, but they're going to be a disruptor. They're going to stir some stuff up. So let's move on to Florida Atlantic. Finished 4-8, 3-5 in the conference. John, your thoughts on Florida Atlantic in 2026?
Florida Atlantic. I have them going really not doing that good. Basically doing what they did last year. Last year they were 4-8, 3-5 in conference, like you said. This year I have them going 4-8 again, but 2-6 in the conference, taking a little step back in the conference. I have them beating UL Monroe on September 26th. Texas Southern after that on October 3rd. I have them upsetting Rice. And I shouldn't say upsetting Rice. I have them beating Rice. And the big upset for them is I have them upsetting Tulsa November 14th. I feel like that could be a trap game for Tulsa. And it's basically going to be just like last year for Florida Atlantic fans.
I agree. I have them starting 1-3 in the first 4 games. And once they get into conference play, it's really going to be a proving ground for them. And I don't think they're going to really have too much success in this conference this year. Not with some of the teams that, like a North Texas, Tulane, Navy, South Florida, East Carolina, you know, teams like that. Even UTSA you could throw in there. Playing teams like that, it's going to be a rough go for Florida Atlantic. And to start the season off, if they were to start off 1-3, it's going to be a rough go for them on the back end of the year. So
I will say this, just like I said about New Mexico State and Florida State.
Yes.
I do feel like they have a shot to go into Florida September 5th and win that game.
Okay.
I mean, that was a 50-50 game. Florida is not the team it used to be, like Florida State isn't the team it once was.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel that is a very winnable game for Florida Atlantic, but since it's in the swamp, I feel like I just gave the edge to the Gators in that one.
Okay. Rice finished 5-8, 2-6 in the conference. They did play in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl against Texas State, getting beat handedly, 41-10. John, your thoughts on Rice?
Rice, I have taking a major step back. Last year they were about 5-8, like you said. This year I have them 2-10. I am not very high on Rice this year. I have them 1-7 in conference play. Their only wins against Houston Christian September 5th and an upset on Tulsa October 17th. Other than that, I mean, you look at their schedule, especially the back half. Army at Temple, Tulane at North Texas, at Florida Atlantic. Midway, you got at East Carolina. You got UTSA in there. Fresno State, a big little small college. I mean, Notre Dame, week 2 at Notre Dame. Western Michigan, like the Owls do not have a favorable schedule, and that was a big thing going into the season that had me give them a 2-10 record. I just don't like how their schedule is stacks up on them.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Rice for getting into a bowl game. I mean, finishing with the record that they did and then getting that bid to get into a bowl game. I mean, yeah, they got stomped, but at least, you know,
They were there.
college football thought about them and said, hey, do you want to take advantage and be in this bowl game? Maybe earn some money, because teams get money for being in bowl games. They earn some money for being in the bowl game, even with a loss. So, hey, kudos to Rice. I don't see change from them this year either. So it's going to be another rough season for that team. UAB, they finished 4-8, 2-6 in the conference. John, your thoughts on UAB in 2026?
UAB, it's just like Rice. I have them taking a step backwards. I have them being 3-9, 1-7 conference play. Rice, I had 13th in the American Conference. UAB, I have 11th in the conference. With their wins, UL Monroe, Samford, and Charlotte, all home games, I have them winning. And again, I feel like, just like Rice, they don't have a favorable matchup. They're at Illinois week 1. They have to go to Louisiana. They play Navy. They go to Memphis. They play East Carolina. They go to South Florida. They go to Temple. I mean, they go to North Texas. So it's just another where the favorable matchups just aren't there. They play a lot of tough teams on the road, and even some of their home games just are tough games. Like, they're not ready to compete yet, and they're just going to continue to show that.
Yeah, I have them basically as a 2-win team, LA Monroe and Samford. Those are the only games I see them winning, finishing with a 2-win record. That's pretty much it for me with UAB. I don't see them having any improvement. I mean, they finished with 4 wins. I have them dropping down to 2 this season. So Tulsa finished 4-8 as well, 1-7 in the conference. John, your thoughts on Tulsa in 2026?
Tulsa, I have just missing a bowl game. I have them 9th in the American Conference. I have them 5-7 with a 1-7 conference record, and that's what's going to kill them, because their non-conference games, I feel like they have a shot to really start off the year good. I have them 4-0 starting off the year, beating Oklahoma State, beating Sam Houston, beating East Texas A&M, and beating Arkansas, because let's be honest, the Razorbacks aren't the Razorbacks of old anymore. But then once conference play starts, I do not have them winning a game until November 21st when they host Charlotte. So they're just going to have a gauntlet of tough conference matchups that they're just not going to be, I don't want to say prepared for, because every college prepares for a game. They just don't have the talent to compete with the teams they're playing. So maybe they can sneak into a bowl and pull off an upset, maybe against Rice. I mean, I think that's kind of winnable for them. But other than that, maybe that's their 6th win and they sneak into a bowl game. But that, to me, 6-6 is their ceiling this year.
Yeah, I mean, I see Tulsa having another maybe 4-win, maybe lucky a 5-win season. Bottom of the barrel again this year. I don't know. I mean, like you said, every team prepares for games, but it's all about the experience of the preparation and what their roster looks like, what experience this roster has, who came in. I mean, I don't think they had too many guys come in through the transfer portal. You're going to talk about that in a minute as far as transfers. But Tulsa, I don't see them having any improvement in 2026 whatsoever. Charlotte, 1-11, 0-8 in the conference. John, final team of conference, the American Conference. Your thoughts on Charlotte?
All right, we saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Charlotte, like you said, 1-11 last year. And to be honest with you, I have them going 1-11 this year. And just like Middle Tennessee, I cast doubt about Middle Tennessee going 0-8 in conference play. I fully expect the Charlotte 49ers to go 0-8 in conference play. Because let's be honest, they're not there, man. They got a long way to go. I see them starting off the year 1-0,
Yes.
beating the Citadel, and then losing 11 straight after that. Similar to last year, where their only game came against Monmouth. I don't know how to pronounce that, but a very smaller college. And once they started playing other FBS1 schools, they just couldn't keep up. And I feel the same way with the Citadel this year and then that game with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I see them starting off 1-0 against Citadel, and then that's it. Just a loss fest from there with Charlotte. But that's it for the American Conference. John, I'm guessing you have some transfers coming from the American Conference that you'd like to talk about real quick before we close things out tonight?
Every conference, I do the top 3 transfers of the conference. The first one is being defensive lineman Jamad Tapp for Memphis. He transferred over from Southern Miss. The second is a player that I am actually a pretty big fan of. He was tearing it up last year before he got hurt and his season was lost. Running back Jaheim White transferred to North Texas from West Virginia. Again, he tore it up for the Mountaineers last year before he got hurt. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end for the Mountaineers last year. And number 3, quarterback Michael Van Buren Jr. from South Florida, transferring from LSU. And the only game I have on here that kind of can't miss just because it's tradition, I have the Army-Navy game December 12th, Army versus Navy.
All righty. So that's it for the American Conference. Next week, we will be covering the Mountain West Conference and the MAC Conference. We're going to get out of here. Before we do, make sure to head over to the Huddle Hub Podcast across all social media on TikTok, Instagram, X, Epic Studio, at the Huddle Hub Pod. Hit the follow button. YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And, of course, over on Twitch at the Huddle Hub Podcast, hit that follow button as well. All of our social media links are in the Twitch bio. Click on the one you desire to go to and help us build the Huddle Hub Podcast through the rest of the 2026 college football all season and beyond. John, social media is on the bottom. What do you want to let people know?
Right now, I really don't have anything going on or anything to update right now. But I will let everybody know once I have something going and for things sorry, for content for people to check out. Got a little tongue-tied there.
Well, go make sure you check out all of John's recorded content that has up on his social medias right now. Hit that follow button and turn the notifications on, and keep your eye out for new content to come for John on social media. Me, TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube, Metal Mike 714. I don't do much on my personals. Everything is done on the shows here on the Huddle Hub Podcast. On Wednesday nights over on the Boom PW Pod on Twitch and on YouTube. And then on Monday night after Monday Night Raw on the Table Spot PW Pod on Twitch and YouTube as well. Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite on the Boom. With that being said, thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys on the Sunday edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you think. We'll see you guys Sunday morning. Until then, deuces.